All right, welcome back for lesson 2. This is the next lesson in our exponents module. Last time we talked about the product property. Today, the title of our lesson is the quotient property. So product meaning multiplication, the answer of a multiplication. Quotient is division. So it's going to be fairly similar, just like how multiplication and division are fairly similar. So let's do a quick little recap of the product property because they are similar. It's helpful to do a quick refresher. So we've got product property. In this example, a squared times a cubed is the same as a to the 2 plus 3. So we can combine the bases into one and then add their exponents for a total of a to the 5th power. So since multiplication and division are opposites, right? They undo each other, the quotient property is very similar. So here we have a situation where we have a cubed, a to the 3, divided by a squared. If I write that out in the long form, I'd get a times a times a here in the numerator, divided by a times a in the denominator. So a times itself 3 times in the numerator, a times itself twice in the denominator. Now I can cross those out. A divided by a divided by a, those are just 1. A divided by a is 1, a divided by a is 1. But I have this one a left over. And that's the only thing left, and so the answer is just a. Now, I don't want to have to write out the long form every single time I do this, so we're going to use this quotient property that allows us to write it like this. A cubed divided by a squared, or a to the 3, divided by a to the 2, is the same as a to the 3 minus 2. We combine the bases, and then instead of adding like we did on the product property, we're going to subtract. So the product property was multiplication, you add. This one is division, and you subtract. All right, so a 3 minus 2 is just 1. So we have a to the 1, which we know is just a. And that's it. That's the quotient property. So it's just the exact opposite of the product property shown right here. Again, product property, you combine the bases and add the exponents. Quotient property, combine the bases and subtract the exponents. So let's take a look at some of these examples. So looking at this first one, we have 4 over 4 to the 4th power. So 4 over 4 to the 4th. This top one, we take the base. These bases are the same, 4 and 4. So you combine the bases. 4. The numerator, the exponent of the numerator is 1. So 1 minus 4. It's always going to be the numerator exponent minus the denominator exponent. You're never going to go the other way. So numerator minus the denominator. So 1 minus 4 is negative 3. So we have 4 to the negative 3. And that would be our answer. We will work with these later on where we change this. We don't like to have negatives in the exponent in our answer. We'll work with that later on in a different lesson. So for right now, just leave it as 4 to the negative 3. All right, this next one, we have 2 over 2 to the 4th power. The base on both of these is 2. We have 2 to the 1 power and 2 to the 4 power. So we combine the bases, 2, and then we have the exponents 1 and 4. 1 is our numerator exponent, 4 is our denominator exponent. So 1 minus 4 is, again, negative 3. This time our base is 2, though, so 2 to the negative 3. All right, looking at the next one, this time we have 2a to the fourth over a squared, or a to the second power. Okay, notice there's a little bit different right here. Just like with multiplication, we need to deal with the coefficients first. So this 2 in front of the a to the fourth is one of our coefficients. So we need to deal with that first. In multiplication, we multiplied the coefficients. In division, or the quotient, we're going to divide the coefficients first. So with quotients, we are going to divide the coefficients. Okay, so we'll divide. Now this one, there's only one coefficient, so our division's not very fun. It's not very exciting. Okay, the next step will be to combine the bases and subtract the exponents just like we did up here. So let's do the division first. So 2 is the coefficient on the top, 1 is the coefficient on the bottom, so just 2 over 1. You don't really have to write the 2 over 1. This is just to show you if you wanted to, that's how it is. So 2 divided by 1, and then we combine the bases, so the base of a and the base of a, and then we do the subtract the exponents. So we have 4 and 2, so 4 minus 2 right there, and then we simplify from here to get 2a, and then 4 minus 2 is 2, so 2a squared. All right, this next one, we have n divided by n to the fourth. This one, we don't have any coefficients to worry about. So we just take our n, combine the bases. So we have n. The exponent on the top is 1. The exponent on the bottom is 4. So 1 minus 4. N to the 1 minus 4 is n to the negative 3, which is as far as we can go. All right, this one, we do have coefficients. So there's a coefficient of 4, p cubed, and then coefficient 3, p to the fourth. We can pull those coefficients of 4 and 3, and we divide them first, which is just 4 over 3, 4/3. That doesn't really simplify. So we're just going to leave it just like that. And then we combine our bases, so p and p, and then do the numerator exponent 3 minus the denominator exponent 4. So we have 4/3 p to the 3 minus 4. Subtract 3 minus 4 and you get negative 1, so 4/3 p to the negative 1. All right, next we have 2x cubed y squared divided by x. So we have a coefficient of 2 right here, none on the bottom. Notice I didn't write the 1 down here because it's just 2. X, we have a 3 on the numerator is our exponent, minus 1, the x on the bottom, and then we have y squared. Now I have 2 variables. Remember, I never combine them, right? They're separate. I combine all the x's, I combine all the y's, but I don't combine the exponents of different variables. Okay, so 3 minus 1, we just need to simplify that. 3 minus 1 is 2, so we get 2x squared, or x to the 2, y to the 2. Okay. This one right here, yx squared divided by y cubed. Okay, so looking at this, no coefficients to worry about, but I do have y's, so I'll start there. Y, 1 minus 3, and then x. There's only an x in the numerator, so there's nothing to combine in the denominator. So we get y, 1 minus 3, there's 1 in the numerator, 3 in the denominator, and then our x squared. The numerator just stays x squared. 1 minus 3 is negative 2, so we have y to the negative 2, x to the positive 2. All right, next one, 3x cubed y squared divided by 3y x squared. Let's work with these coefficients first. So I have a 3 in the numerator, a 3 in the denominator. So 3 over 3. We have an x cubed in the numerator, an x squared in the denominator, so 3 minus 2, and then a y squared in the numerator, and a y in the denominator, 2 minus 1. Okay, so 3 over 3, x, 3 minus 2, y to the 2 minus 1. 3 minus 2 is 1, 2 minus 1 is 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So 1, x to the 1, y to the 1, all those ones are unnecessarily written. It's not untrue, but it's just extra. So we like to simplify it down to just x, y. Okay, keep going. We have 4y divided by x cubed. Now there's this coefficient of 4. That's great. There's nothing in the denominator though, so we know it's just going to stay 4. Y, there's no y's in the denominator. And x cubed in the denominator, there's no x's in the numerator. So since there's no common bases, it's already simplified. So our answer, 4y over x cubed, is the answer. We don't have to simplify it anymore. All right. 4n divided by m3, m to the third power, n to the fourth. Okay, this one maybe is a little bit more tricky. Here we go. Let's take the coefficient in the numerator and write that down. So we have our 4. Then I have n's. I have 1 n on the top and 4 n's on the bottom. So it's going to be 1 minus 4. And then my m's. Remember, I take the numerator and I subtract the denominator. So if I have 0 in the numerator, I'm going to actually write that. So I have m to the 0. There's 0 m's in the numerator. And then I'm going to subtract 3 m's from the denominator. So I'm going to take 0 minus 3 for a total of negative 3. So 4n to the negative 3, m to the negative 3. Okay. I have 2n divided by nm cubed. 2n divided by nm cubed, or nm to the third. The 2 is my coefficient. There's no other coefficients, so I can just carry that over. We have an n, so 1 n on the top, 1 n on the bottom, so 1 minus 1. And then we have, let's see, m. There's 0 m's on the top again, but 3 m's on the bottom, so it's going to be 0 minus 3. If I reduce that, it gets to 2 n to the 0, m to the negative 3. So 2 n to the 0, m to the negative 3. N to the 0, anything to the 0, remember, is just 1. So we have 2 times 1 to the m, or times m to the negative 3. 2 times 1 is just 2. So our answer, 2m to the negative 3. Okay. Moving on, we have this next one is negative xy times negative xy to the 0 divided by negative 3y cubed, y to the 3. So here we have a multiplication inside the numerator, right? This has multiple steps going on inside the numerator. It's not simple like these ones. So what I'm going to do when you have things like this, you have a problem like this, simplify the numerator, or if it's complicated in the denominator first, simplify either those first and then do the quotient like what we've been doing. So we're going to actually need to use the product property that we learned last lesson before we can do our quotient property. Okay, so let's simplify the numerator. Negative xy times negative xy to the 0. So negative and a negative, right? That's the same as negative 1 times negative 1, negative and negative. We have an x, 1x there, 1x there, so 1 plus 1. And we have a y and a 0y. So y, 1 plus 0, that's our product property. We're combining that. And notice I left the denominator just the way it was. Haven't touched that. It's still negative 3y cubed. All right. So negative 1 times negative 1, negative times negative is always a positive. So that's just positive 1. X, 1 plus 1 is 2, so x squared. And then y, 1 plus 0 is just 1. So we have x squared y divided by negative 3y cubed. Now it looks a lot like what we have been doing. We can just use the quotient property. So I combine, remember I combine the bases, and then, or do the coefficients first, combine the bases, subtract the exponents. So my coefficient is 1 in the numerator, negative 3 in the denominator. So that's 1, negative 1/3. Okay. Then I have 2 x's in the numerator, 0 x's in the denominator, so I'm not even going to include those. And then I have 1 y in the numerator and 3 y's in the denominator, so it's 1 minus 3. So my answer, negative 1/3 x squared y 1 minus 3. Negative 1/3 x squared, and then 1 minus 3 is negative 2, so y for negative 2 is our answer there. Okay, just a few more. I have 3r to the 4 times r. Sorry, this one's a little bit skipped ahead. Missed a slide there. 3r to the 4 times r divided by 3r to the 0. So I want to simplify again this numerator first. So I go, my coefficient is 3 and 1, so just 3. R to the 4 plus 1, so we have 4 r's there, 1 r here, so 4 plus 1. So 3r to the 4 plus 1. I'm leaving the denominator alone. It's tempting to go ahead and try to do both at the same time, but breaking it down simply step by step is always the best way to avoid breaking some of the rules or doing the properties incorrectly. So definitely recommend doing it step by step, breaking it down, doing the numerator first, and then working into the denominator after that. So 3r to the 5th is what we get left on our numerator after simplifying, over 3r to the 0. Okay. Remember, we take our coefficients and divide them, so we have a coefficient of 3 and a coefficient of 3. 3 divided by 3. And then we combine our bases. Our bases are. And so we have r to the 5 minus r to the 0. So 5 minus 0 is just 5. 3 divided by 3 is just 1. We have 1 r to the 5. That 1 is kind of unnecessary, so we can just write it as r to the 5th power. So you can see how useful this is. All of this complicated 3r to the 4 times r divided by 3r to the 0 really reduces all the way down to r to the 5th. A lot more simple. Okay, this next one is going to take a little bit more simplification. We've got some products in the numerator. We've got a product in the denominator. We've got 3 different variables, negative, whole bunch of stuff going on here. So let's take it step by step. I'm going to work on the numerator first, Then I'll simplify the denominator. And then finally, after we simplify both of those separately, we will use the quotient property. So -4 times -1, we do the coefficients first. And then we have 1x here, 1x here. So we have x to the 1 plus 1. We have 3y's here, 3y's here, and then 1z here and 2z's here. So we have 1 plus 2. So -4 times -1, negative times negative is positive. X, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, so we have x squared, y cubed, z cubed. Notice I left the denominator completely untouched. I'm just rewriting it. I haven't changed anything in the denominator yet. But my numerator is all simplified. This is all simplified. 4x squared, y cubed, z cubed. All right, -2x, y squared, z to the 4th, 4x cubed, y cubed. Let's work on the denominator. Simplify that denominator. So product property, multiply the coefficients, so -2 times 4. Then we have x. We have 1x here, 3x is here. Okay, so 1 plus 3. We have 2y's here and 3y's here, so 2 plus 3. And then just 4 z's right here, no additional z's in the second product. We have z to the 4th. We have 4x squared, y cubed, z cubed. That stays the same from our simplified numerator. Then the denominator simplifies to -8. We have x to the 4th, y to the 5th, and z to the 4th. Now that everything is simplified, I can apply the quotient property. Divide the coefficients first, 4 divided by -8. Then I subtract the exponents, or combine the bases first, and then subtract the exponents. So we have my x's, but x, 2 minus 4, 3 minus 5 on the y, and 3 minus 4 on the z exponents. Let's simplify that. So 4 divided by -8. Let's see, 4 goes into both of those. So we have 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we get -1/2 x to the -2. 2 minus 4 is -2. Y to the -2. 3 minus 5 is -2. And z to the -1. 3 minus 4 is -1. And that is our completed simplified expression. One last one. We have 2 divided by 2 to the 4th times 2 to the -1st. Let's again simplify our, this time it's in the denominator, so let's simplify the denominator first. So 2 to the 4th is 1, 2 to the -1. Remember, the base is 2. We're not multiplying the 2's together. That's our base. So combine those, I get 2 to the 4 plus -1. 4 plus -1 is +3. So we have 2 divided by 2 to the +3. Now we can use the, now that the numerator and denominator are simplified, we can use the quotient property. So 2 divided by 2 to the 3 is 2 to the 1, right? 2 to the 1 minus 3. There's our 3. And 1 minus 3 is -2. So our answer is 2 to the -2 power. And that's it. That is our lesson 2, the quotient property. You have the opportunity to practice that on your own with the homework. We'll go over it again before we move on to lesson 3. Thank you.